Imagine finding a door to another world where anything you learn or gain can be brought back to real life. The story begins with a girl being harassed by some men. However, we meet Yuya, a boy passing by. Yuya tries to help her, but the men insult him, calling him fat and ugly, and beat him up. Eventually, the police arrive, and the men run away. The girl thanks Yuya, but he says he's fine and walks away. We learn that ever since he was young, Yuya has been bullied by everyone, even his own parents treated him like trash. They favored his siblings for being beautiful and called him ugly. In middle school, things got worse, and he was often bullied. His grandfather was the only one who cared for him, always saying that being kind would bring happiness. But, when his grandfather passed away, he left Yuya his house and savings. Although his parents tried to contest the will. But, in the end Yuya got everything, but his parents abandoned him. Now, he lives alone and works part-time every day. Later at school, as he is graduating from middle school, his bullies stop him once again. The bullies remind Yuya that even though he's graduating, he's still their errand boy. Yuya tries to explain that he needs to get to his part-time job, but they beat him up again, while his siblings enjoy watching it from a distance. When Yuya finally arrives at his job, his boss, tired of him being late, tells him not to come back. Later, at home, Yuya looks at himself in the mirror and throws a tantrum, smashing the mirror. Feeling like nothing will change even after graduation. As he punches the wall in frustration, and a hidden room suddenly opens up. The room is full of strange items. Yuya assumes that these are his grandfather's souvenirs from traveling. He notices an unusual door and, when he opens it, he finds himself in a mysterious room. He gets scared as a notification appears, and he learns that the door is connected to another world. Suddenly, more notifications pop up, explaining various functions like ability to control who can use the door. Although, Yuya is confused by the system but thinks it's like a game, so he decides to check his status. He's devastated to find all his stats are so low. As he looks around, he realizes he's really in another world. He finds a note on the table, and although he can't read it at first, a language skill helps him understand it. The note says the house belonged to a great sage who is about to die, and he left everything to whoever finds it. The house is protected by a magic barrier, so only the owner can enter. Inside, Yuya finds a collection of weapons. As he examines them, he realizes that they are very powerful and dangerous. He goes outside and tries swinging a sword, but he falls over. Despite this, he manages to learn a basic sword skill. Thinking it could be useful, Yuya trains with each weapon, discovering they are all god-tier items, and he gains several new skills. Yuya puts the weapons into his storage when a monster suddenly attacks. He's scared but quickly realizes the house is protected by magic. The monster is a level 300, bloody ogre. It smashes against the magic barrier. It even tried using a tree to break in, but the barrier didn't break. Yuya decides to fight back and throws his spear, which pierces right through the monster and kills it in one hit. The spear returns to him, and the monster disappears, leaving behind several items. To his surprise, Yuya suddenly reaches level 100 and is shocked by his new stats. He decides to call it a day, but as he leaves, he gets a cash-out option, which allows him to convert the monster's items into money. Yuya is confused by the cash-out option but happily accepts it. Later that night, his body undergoes a complete transformation. When he wakes up, he notices that his clothes no longer fit. He's not sure what is going on, and his mirror is still broken. He searches for new clothes, and finds magical clothes in the sage's house that can freely adjust in size and provide a range of magical bonuses. A few days later, Yuya thinks about the mysterious sage as he looks around his garden. Suddenly, a level 200 slime monster attacks, but Yuya calmly pulls out his spear and easily defeats it. The monster drops some coffee slime and a rare necklace that can restore magic power. He levels up again, and gains a new presence detection skill. Yuya tries the coffee slime and finds it surprisingly tasty. The next day, he decides to use some of his money to buy a new uniform for the start of high school. After that, he spends every day in the other world. He starts to enjoy himself, even forgetting his depression. He trains hard and learns as much as he can. Time flies, and when high school starts, everyone is instantly drawn to him. Even his siblings seem to be in awe. In class, his bullies approach him, thinking he's a new student. But when he says he's Yuya, everyone is shocked and doesn't believe him. Later, he looks in the mirror and is stunned by his new appearance. After class, his brother and sister ask what he did to change so much, still calling him a loser. Just then, a limo arrives, and the girl he saved shows up, looking for him. Yuya is curious about who she is, and she reminds him of the time when he saved her. Surprised, Yuya asks how she knows his name. She admits that she looked into him, because she wanted to properly thank him. Introducing herself, she mentions her name as Kaori and then asks if he would be interested in joining OTAKU Academy, a prestigious institution for the elite students. Yuya instantly recognizes that name and learns that her father is the academy's chairman. Yuya is flattered by the offer but thinks he isn't smart enough to join such an academy. Yuya's brother interrupts, claiming he should join the academy since he's better in academics and sports. Kaori refuses, defending Yuya as her hero and revealing that she knows about his siblings' mistreatment of him. She tells Yuya that OTAKU Academy values personality, not just academics, so he would fit in just fine. Kaori then suggests showing him the academy and takes him there, leaving his siblings in shock. When they arrive, Yuya sees it's a famous school filled with talented students. Yuya meets the chairman, Tsukasa, who thanks him for saving his daughter. Yuya brushes it off, saying it wasn't a big deal. Tsukasa invites him to join the academy and even offers to cover his tuition as a thank you. However, Yuya hesitates, feeling he wouldn't fit in since the school usually accepts only geniuses. Tsukasa reassures him, saying that geniuses are just regular people who have learned to work smart, though Yuya believes they are simply born with talent. Tsukasa encourages him, explaining that everyone has their own talents. And he will eventually learn what his talents are. He suggests Yuya to try out the school for a day. A teacher named Sawada walks in, and Tsukasa introduces her as a famous scientist whose classes are popular and easy to understand. Yuya gets ready for his first class, worried he might not fit in, but he reminds himself that it can't be worse than his old school. When he introduces himself, the students look surprised. Yuya worries about what they think of him, but they're really amazed by how handsome he looks. He sits at the back and shares a book with the girl next to him, but she seems distant, making him worry that she already dislikes him. As the class progresses, he finds it pretty normal, though the students are much more engaged and active than his previous school. During the break, a group of students approaches him, asking questions like whether he's an idol or if he has a girlfriend. A student named Rio steps in, stopping them from overwhelming him, and takes Yuya to the cafeteria for lunch. Yuya is amazed to see the menu, and it's all free. Yuya feels like he's dreaming. They sit with a student named Shingo and start talking. Shingo asks if Yuya is in any clubs, but Yuya says no. Shingo tells him he's in the gaming club, and Yuya is shocked that consoles are allowed at school. Shingo explains it's okay as long as they don't play during class. As they chat about video games, Yuya starts feeling more at ease. At the end of the day, he meets Tsukasa and admits he had fun. Yuya decides he wants to join the school. As Yuya leaves the room, he runs into Kaori, who asks if he's joining the school. When he tells her his decision, she's happy and invites him to hang out after school, as they visit some shops in a popular area. Yuya wonders if she comes here often with friends, but Kaori explains she doesn't hang out much because people are hesitant around her due to her family and her father. However, she says Yuya is different. Feeling a bit nervous, Yuya suggests checking out the crepe shop. As they enjoy their crepes, they both have a good time. Yuya asks how Kaori recognized him despite his new look, and she says that while he's a bit slimmer, she could tell because his eyes are still the same. She offers him a bite of her crepe since he wanted to try different flavors, and though a bit embarrassed, he accepts. Realizing how he feels, she takes a bite of his crepe as well, and they share a shy moment. Some girls nearby notice and think they look like a perfect couple. Later that night, Yuya decides to head back to the other world, putting on a full set of armor. Even though he's still scared, he manages to defeat a monster and notices he's leveled up again, but realizes his leveling speed has slowed down. Thinking he needs to face stronger monsters, he plans to leave his house to explore further. Just as he steps outside, he hears a scream. He pulls out his spear. Yuya rushes toward the sound and comes across several soldiers who have been brutally killed. Then, he spots the source of the danger, a level 200 goblin general. Yuya sees a girl behind the dangerous goblin. He throws his spear, but the goblin deflects it. Taking the chance, Yuya jumps and kicks the goblin, defeating it. As he turns to the girl, she warns him about another goblin behind him. Before he can react, he gets knocked away and realizes this new goblin is stronger and faster. Yuya doesn't give up and switches to his bow, firing a bunch of arrows. Then, he uses his sword to slice the goblin in half. He checks on the girl, curious about other humans in this world, but she faints. He hears some men approaching. Yuya uses his invisibility skill to hide. The knights arrive, looking for the girl, and we learns that she's a princess named Lexia. At home, Yuya thinks about the encounter and wonders if the girl is okay. He notices his shirt and decides to buy new clothes since he's made money from the other world. At the mall, people stare at him, thinking he's an actor or model. Meanwhile, a director is upset because his model hasn't shown up for a shoot. The manager gets a call from the model, who says he's on his way, but the director is angry about wasting everyone's time, especially Myo, the other model who has been waiting all morning. The director decides to find a replacement model in the mall. Meanwhile, Yuya is overwhelmed by all the clothes options as he shops. While searching, the director spots Yuya and thinks he's perfect for the job. He approaches Yuya and explains the situation, asking if he could help them. Yuya is nervous but thinks about the people counting on him and agrees to be their model. He poses as the boyfriend, trying on different outfits and taking photos in various poses. Though he struggles at first, Myo reassures him he's doing well and thanks him for helping. At the next spot, the director asks them to get closer, so Myo wraps her arms around Yuya, making him even more embarrassed. Meanwhile, in the other world, Princess Lexia thinks about the incident and decides to head back to the dark forest to find the person who saved her. Knights warns her about the forest but she insists on going back. Back at the mall, the shoot ends, and Yuya is exhausted. Myo thanks him again. As they chat, the other model, Sho, shows up, and the crowd gets excited. Sho walks up to Myo and pushes her against the wall, asking her to go out for drinks, but Yuya notices she's uncomfortable. He steps in, and Sho asks who he is. Sho tries to punch Yuya, but Yuya effortlessly throws him aside. Everyone is shocked, and Yuya notices how slow Sho's punch was. He worries about causing a scene, but the crowd cheers, thinking he's cool. Sho is confused about losing and runs off after the director tells him to leave. Myo thanks Yuya, explaining that Sho had been following her and she didn't know how to deal with it. The director mentions that Sho has always had bad behavior and is unlikely to get work again. He then asks Yuya if he's interested in more modeling. Yuya thanks him for the opportunity but says he doesn't feel good enough, so he declines. The director respects his decision and gives Yuya all the clothes from the shoot as a thank you. Later, in the car, Myo looks at the photos and thinks about how different Yuya was. The director notices her blushing and teases her about liking him. Meanwhile, Yuya organizes his wardrobe. We see that his photo has spread around, and agencies are curious about who he is. A woman, eager to sign him, tells her associate to find Yuya before any other agencies do. She is determined not to let him get away. Meanwhile, in the other world, Lexia's knights are struggling against some goblins. Suddenly, a goblin appears behind her, but Yuya arrives just in time to defeat it. The knights are shocked to see him as he easily takes down the other goblins. Lexia is happy to see that he is real, and Yuya finishes off the last goblin. Afterward, he helps one of the knights, and Lexia approaches him. She says she came to the dark forest because she has something to tell him. Curious, Yuya asks what it is, and she suddenly asks if he will marry her. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see the next part, please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel.